The air was heavy with smoke and dust. Broken buildings surrounded the open square. Their walls blackened from old battles. Here in the middle of ruins stood the alien marketplace. It was not a place of joy, not a place of trading goods or spices. It was a place of sorrow, where desperate mothers and children were offered like tools. The smell of sweat and hunger mixed with strange alien perfumes. Voices shouted, some in alien tongues, some in broken human speech, all speaking of prices and bargains. In the middle of that chaos, a small alien girl stood on a wooden crate. Her hands shook as she pulled her mother forward. Her voice was high and desperate, echoing across the crowd. Please make an offer for my mom. She'll cook you delicious meals. She is the best cook. She can make anything, the little girl cried. Her mother's head was bowed low, her eyes hollow, her arms thin from hunger. She said nothing, too broken, too tired, too ashamed. The crowd looked at them, some laughed, some turned away. Others stepped forward only to ask cruel questions. Can she work in the mines? Can she clean like a machine? Does she fight? When the girl shook her head and said softly, she cooks, she makes food, she makes the best food. The aliens lost interest. The little girl's voice cracked, but she did not stop. Her small hands pushed her mother forward again. Please, she can cook for you every day. She can make you happy. Her eyes filled with tears. But no one cared. The merchants shouted louder, showing off stronger slaves, faster servants. The girl's cry was drowned by the noise of buying and selling. Her mother whispered, "Stop, child, no one will take us." But the girl shook her head. Someone will, someone has to. At the edge of the market, a man stood still. He was not like the others. His skin, his eyes, his stance marked him as human. Humans rarely came to this place. It was dangerous, it was cruel. Yet he stood there, silent, watching. He heard the girl's voice, and it cut through the noise of the market. He saw her trembling hands, her small body shielding her mother, and he saw how the crowd ignored her. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched at his sides. The girl noticed him, her eyes wide. For a moment she froze, unsure if she should speak. But desperation pushed her forward. She cried louder, "Please, human, make an offer, take my mom, she can cook for you. She can make you happy." The crowd laughed, mocking both the girl and the human. What would a human want with a weak alien cook? They sneered. Humans want warriors, not cooks. The human did not answer. He stepped forward slowly, his boots pressing against the dirt. The girl's heart raced, hope rising. Her mother pulled her back, whispering, "No, don't. He will only hurt us." But the girl whispered back, "I feel it. He is different." The market fell silent as the human walked closer. All eyes turned to him, whispers spread. Some spat on the ground, others growled. No one trusted humans here, no one welcomed them. Yet he walked with calm steps, his eyes fixed only on the girl and her mother. The little girl looked up at him, tears on her face. She waited for his words, for his judgment. Would he laugh like the others, or would he turn away? The human knelt down, his voice low but clear. "What is your name, little one?" he asked. The girl's lips trembled. "Lyra," she said. "And your mother?" he asked softly. The mother raised her head for the first time, her eyes meeting his. "My name does not matter," she whispered. Ashamed, the human shook his head. "Names always matter." The merchants shouted angrily, "Now, human, leave. This is not your place. Do not touch what you cannot pay for." But the man ignored them. He reached into his pack, not for money, not for credits. Instead, he pulled out a small loaf of bread, real bread, human bread. He broke it in half and gave it to the girl. Her eyes widened, her hands trembling as she held the food. The mother gasped, her breath caught in her throat. Bread was worth more than gold here. The crowd stared, confused, angry, shocked. The human stood and said only one thing. "My offer is not for a servant. My offer is for a family." Silence followed. The girl clutched the bread, her heart pounding. Her mother looked at the man, unable to speak. The crowd erupted into laughter and shouts. "Family? With them? Foolish human." But the human did not step back. His eyes were steady, his voice unshaken. And in that broken place of despair, for the first time, hope was born. The marketplace was still buzzing with angry voices. Merchants shouted that the human had insulted them. Guards pushed closer, hands on their weapons, and yet, in the middle of that storm, the human stood calm. The girl, Lyra, held the bread tightly against her chest. Her mother's eyes were wide with fear, afraid the crowd would take it away. But the human's calm voice cut through the noise. "I will take them with me," he said. but not as slaves. Not as property, the crowd roared with laughter. Not as property? One alien sneered. Then what use are they? Another shouted, Who saves a cook and her crying child? The guards raised their weapons, ready to drive the human out. But something about his voice, the steady way he stood, made them hesitate. This was no ordinary wanderer, no weak fool. There was steel in his eyes, the kind only seen in warriors who had fought long battles. Lyra tugged at her mother's arm, whispering fast, See, I told you he's different. He doesn't want to hurt us, her mother shook her head. Do not believe too quickly, child. Humans are clever, sometimes more dangerous than traitors. But when she looked at him again, she felt something strange. Not fear, but something heavier, something she had not felt in years, hope. The human noticed her gaze, and for a moment, his expression softened. The head merchant, a tall alien with silver scales, pushed forward. You insult my market, he hissed. You insult our rules. If you want them, pay the price. Human. The human did not reach for gold or credits. Instead, he dropped something small into the merchant's hand. It was a metal badge, worn but shining, an emblem of the human fleet, a symbol of protection and war. The merchant's scales rippled in fear as he looked at it. He knew what it meant, harm a human carrying that badge. And the fleet might come, the crowd whispered, nervous now, unsure if mocking this man was safe anymore. The human leaned closer to the merchant, his voice quiet but sharp. I offer no money. I offer a warning, he said. These two are mine now, and if anyone tries to touch them, you will answer to me. The merchant's mouth opened, then closed. His greed fought with his fear. Finally, he growled, throwing the badge back. Take them and go, but you will regret it. Human cooks cannot fight, children cannot serve. They will only slow you down. The human caught the badge and slipped it back into his coat. He did not reply. He only turned to Lyra and her mother. Come, he said simply. The mother hesitated, frozen between disbelief and fear, but Lyra pulled her forward. Clutching the bread in one hand and her mother's hand in the other, the crowd stepped aside, some muttering, some glaring. But none dared to stop them, not now. The human walked steadily, not rushing, not looking back. Each step felt like a promise, a shield between them and the world. When they left the noise of the market behind, silence fell. The mother finally spoke, her voice low and shaking. Why did you do this? You could have walked away. No one would have blamed you. The human glanced at her, his eyes steady. I could not walk away from a child's cry, he said. The mother lowered her head, ashamed of her weakness. I have nothing to give you. I am only a cook. I have no strength. No skills for battle. The human shook his head. Strength comes in many forms. Food can save lives too. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining. Does that mean we belong to you now? She asked. The human stopped walking and knelt down. He looked at her carefully, his voice serious. No, little one. You do not belong to me, he said. You belong to yourselves. But you will not be alone anymore as long as you walk with me. Lyra blinked, confused at first. Then her lips curved into a small smile. Her mother's breath caught, the words striking her heart. No one had ever spoken to them like that before. Not as things, not as burdens, but as people. They reached an abandoned alley, half covered in rubble. The human led them inside and handed over a small pack. Inside was water and dried food. Eat, both of you, he said. We have a long road ahead. Lyra broke the bread and shared it with her mother, her small hands trembling with excitement as she tasted real food. The mother ate slowly, tears filling her eyes. Each bite reminded her of the life she had lost long ago. But now, sitting beside a stranger who called himself their protector, it felt like a life might begin again. Far away in the marketplace, the silver-scaled merchant watched from the shadows. His eyes burned with anger as he whispered to the guards, Follow them, the human thinks he can insult us. But no one leaves my market without a price. The guards nodded. Slipping into the ruins like hunters, the human, unaware, sat with the alien mother and her child. But his sharp eyes glanced once at the rooftops. He had fought too many battles not to feel when danger was close. He did not speak of it yet, for now he let the girl eat, let her mother breathe, but deep inside he knew. This was only the beginning. The night fell over the ruined city. The streets grew quiet, but the silence was heavy. The human sat with Lyra and her mother in the broken alley. The girl leaned against her mother, her small hand still holding the piece of bread. For the first time in months, her eyes closed without fear, but the human's eyes did not rest. He knew too well that danger never truly slept. He could feel it in the air, the way shadows moved, the way whispers carried on the rooftops. Alien guards crawled like insects. Their eyes glowed faintly, weapons clutched in their claws. They had orders to follow the human, to wait for the right time. They wanted to take the woman and child back. They wanted to teach the human a lesson for defying the marketplace. The silver-scaled merchant watched from afar, his tongue flicking in anger. "Let him think he saved them," he hissed. "We will take them back before dawn." The human leaned against the wall, his head lowered as if he were resting, but his ears caught every sound. The scrape of claws, the click of weapons, the faint hiss of alien voices. He reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a small device, a round orb no bigger than his palm. He pressed a button, and it gave a soft pulse of light before going dark. It was an old Earth trick, a sensor that would reveal hidden movement. The human's lips curved slightly. He knew he was right, danger was already here. He touched Lyra's shoulder gently. "Wake up, little one," he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion filling her face. "We have to move," he said firmly. "Quiet now." Her mother stirred, fear flashing in her eyes. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Hunters," he answered simply. "They are close." The mother pulled Lyra into her arms. Holding her tight, the human rose to his feet. Scanning the alley, he pointed toward the narrow path between two collapsed buildings. "This way, follow me," he said. The alley was dark, filled with broken stones and rusted metal, but his steps were quick, precise. He moved like someone who had walked through war. Behind him, the woman and child followed, their breaths fast. Above them, shadows shifted. The guards whispered to each other, tracking the movement below. They leapt from roof to roof, waiting for the perfect trap. One of them raised his weapon, but the merchant's command echoed in his head. "Not yet. Let the human feel fear first," so they followed. Silent, deadly, patient. The human turned left into a tighter alley. The walls rose high, almost touching. The stench of rot filled the air, but here, the human's device beeped faintly. He knew they were surrounded. He pressed another switch on the orb and the air shimmered faintly. Lyra gasped as a faint blue grid appeared on the wall. "What is that?" she whispered. "An old Earth trick," the human said, "to show me my exits." And there it was, a hidden passage blocked by fallen debris. He placed his hand on it, testing the rocks. "We'll clear this fast," he said. "Stay close to me." But before he could move the stones, a sharp sound filled the air. The hiss of alien blades cutting the night. The hunters dropped from the rooftops, their glowing eyes locking on the group. The mother gasped, pulling Lyra behind her. The human stood tall, his coat swaying as he faced them. "You should have stayed in your market," one hunter growled. "No," the human replied calmly. "I should have left it in ashes." The hunter snarled and moved closer. The human reached into his coat again and pulled out a small weapon. It was not like theirs, it was old, scratched, but dangerous. The barrel glowed faintly as he aimed it. The hunters hesitated, their steps slowing. The human used that moment. He kicked the debris hard, breaking the smaller rocks free. The hidden passage opened just enough for a child to slip through. "Go," he ordered the mother. She shook her head. "Not without you." He turned sharply, his voice hard. "Now take her. I'll cover you." Tears filled her eyes, but she obeyed, pulling Lyra through the small opening. The girl cried, "No, don't leave him," but her mother held her tight. Whispering, "He will come," he promised. The hunters lunged forward, and the human fired. The blast lit the alley with blue light. Striking one hunter down, the others roared, their claws scraping against stone. The human moved fast, his body twisting. Dodging their blades, every move was sharp, practiced. But there were too many, and they pressed him back. He fought like a cornered wolf, refusing to fall, and all the while, he moved closer to the opening, his promise echoing in his mind. They will not be alone anymore. At last, with a final kick, he cleared enough space for himself. He ducked into the passage just as another blade slashed past him. The rocks collapsed behind him, sealing the way. The hunters roared in frustration, trapped on the other side. The human landed hard on the ground. Dust rising around him, Lyra rushed to him, her arms wrapping around his waist. "You came," she whispered, her small voice shaking. The human placed a hand on her head, breathing hard. "I promised," he said. And I never break a promise. The mother sank to the ground, relief and exhaustion flooding her body. But the human's eyes stayed sharp. This was only one battle. The hunters would not give up so easily. He looked down the dark tunnel stretching ahead. It led deeper into the ruins, deeper into danger, but also perhaps toward freedom. He stood tall again, his voice steady. Come, we keep moving. The night is not over. The tunnel carried them far from the marketplace. Broken walls lined the way, roots pushed through the cracks, and the air smelled of damp stone at last. They emerged into a quiet courtyard, half buried under rubble. The moonlight poured through the broken roof, silver beams touching the ground. Here, for the first time since their escape, there was silence, no hunters, no merchants. Only the sound of night insects. Lyra leaned against her mother, exhausted, her eyes closed halfway. But her small hands would not let go of the bread. The human knelt and checked the shadows, his weapon ready when he was sure they were safe for now. He lowered himself against the wall. The mother sank down beside him, her breathing heavy, her body trembling from fear and fatigue. But still she kept Lyra close, her arms wrapped tight around her child. For a long moment none of them spoke. Only the quiet sound of Lyra's slow breathing filled the air. At last, the human reached into his pack and pulled out a small metal container. He opened it carefully and a faint smell drifted out. Spices, dried herbs, pieces of preserved food. He handed it toward the mother. You said you cook, he said simply. Show me. The mother froze, staring at the food in disbelief, her lips trembled. You trust me to cook for you? The human nodded. Yes, if you have strength left. Her hands shook as she took the container. For years she had begged strangers to let her cook, always mocked, always ignored. Now, this stranger handed her food willingly, without mockery, without demand. She cleared a small patch of ground and built a tiny fire from broken wood. Her movements were slow at first, but memory guided her. The sparks caught, flames rose, and warmth spread through the cold air. Lyra's eyes lit up as she saw the fire. Her stomach growled loudly, and she laughed softly for the first time in months. The mother smiled faintly, then began to grind the herbs with stones, mixing them with water from the human's pack. The smell rose quickly, filling the ruined courtyard with warmth and spice. The human sat quietly watching her. He had seen many cooks, many meals in his travels, but there was something different here. The way she worked, her focus, the careful way she balanced the herbs. Even with little, she made something rich, something alive. He thought of Earth, of meals shared with his own family long ago. For the first time in years, he felt that same memory stir in his chest. Lyra leaned close to her mother, helping where she could. She stirred the pot with a broken stick, her small face glowing in the firelight. Her laughter echoed softly against the stone walls. The mother glanced at her and tears filled her eyes. She had not seen her daughter laugh like this since before the war. She wiped her tears quickly, not wanting the human to see. But when she looked up, his eyes were already on her. Steady and kind, he said nothing. But she felt understood. When the food was ready, she poured it into small bowls the human had carried. It was a simple soup, nothing more than herbs, dried meat and water. But to them it smelled like a feast. The human accepted his bowl, nodding respectfully. He took the first spoonful and tasted it. A faint smile crossed his lips. It's good, he said softly. Very good. The mother's shoulders shook with relief, pride flooding her face for the first time in years. Lyra giggled, eating too quickly. Burning her tongue, her mother scolded gently. But the sound was warm, playful. The human ate slowly, savoring every bite. Not because the food was rich, but because it was alive with care. Every spoonful carried the strength of a mother's love, and that made it more valuable than gold. After they finished, the fire burned low. The mother leaned back, her eyes heavy. She whispered, "Why did you really save us?" The human looked into the fire, his jaw tight. "Because I could not watch a child beg for her mother," he answered. The mother lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. "You risked your life for us, but we are nothing." The human shook his head firmly. "You are not nothing, not to me." The words settled heavy in the air. The mother looked away, hiding her tears. Lyra crawled closer to the human, curling against his side. "Does this mean you're our family now?" she asked softly. The human froze, his heart caught off guard. For a long moment he said nothing. Finally he placed his hand gently on her head. "I don't know what the future holds," he said, But tonight, yes, we are family. Lyra smiled and closed her eyes. Drifting into sleep beside him, the mother watched silently. Her heart torn, she had lost so much, trusted no one. And yet here was a man who fought for them, who ate their food with respect, she whispered softly. Thank you. The human looked at her, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. You don't need to thank me, he said. Just keep cooking, we'll need your strength. Above. Unseen in the darkness, a shadow moved. One of the hunters had tracked them here, his eyes glowing faintly. He watched the fire. The family-like scene below, he whispered into his communicator. I found them. Danger was not gone. Not yet, but in that moment around the fire they were safe. And for the first time in a long time they felt human again. The fire had died to glowing embers. The night was quiet, but the quiet carried weight. The human sat with his back against the wall, his weapon resting across his knees. Lyra slept soundly at his side, her tiny breath soft and steady. Her mother sat close too, half asleep, but fear kept her from closing her eyes fully. She could not shake the feeling that something was coming. And she was right. Back at the marketplace, the silver-scaled merchant paced furiously. His tail struck the ground, his eyes burning with rage. He had been humiliated, and in his world humiliation demanded blood. That human thinks he can insult my trade. Walk away with my property and live, he hissed. Around him his guards knelt. Waiting for orders, one of them asked carefully. Do we kill them now? The merchant's lips curled, sharp teeth gleaming. No, not yet. Killing would be mercy. I want him to suffer. I want the woman dragged back in chains. I want the child to cry until her voice breaks. The guards nodded. Eager to serve, by midnight a hunting party left the marketplace. 6 armed aliens with claws and blades. Moving like shadows across the ruined streets, they spread out. Following tracks left by the human and the 2 he carried away, the merchant himself followed slowly, his eyes glittering with anticipation. He wanted to see the human break. In the courtyard, the human stirred suddenly. His sharp ears caught the faint scrape of stone, the whisper of movement on the rooftops. He stood quickly, his voice low but firm. Wake up. Both of you. The mother's eyes flew open, fear flashing as she clutched Lyra. What is it? She whispered. Trouble, the human answered. They found us. Before she could ask more, a stone fell from the wall. A hunter dropped into the courtyard, his blade flashing in the moonlight. Behind him, more shadows leapt down. Surrounding them, the mother pulled Lyra close, shielding her with her own body. The girl whimpered, fear shaking her small frame. The human stepped forward, his body between them and the hunters. His weapon rose, glowing faintly in his steady hands. The silver-scaled merchant stepped into the firelight. He spread his arms wide as if he were a king claiming his throne. Human, he sneered. You could have walked away, you could have lived. But you chose to challenge me. The human's eyes narrowed, his voice calm. I chose to protect a child and her mother. The merchant laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. Protect? You will fail. You are one man. We are many. Give them back and perhaps I let you crawl away. The human shook his head. No. The hunters hissed and closed in. The mother whispered frantically. Run, please, take my child and run. Leave me. The human turned sharply, his eyes fierce. I will not leave either of you, he said. You are not things to be traded, you are people. The mother froze, his words cutting deep into her heart. No one had ever spoken of her like that, not in years. Her hands trembled. Torn between fear and hope, the first hunter lunged. Claws swinging, the human fired, the blast struck true, sending the creature crashing back. But the others moved quickly, their blades flashing in the dark. The courtyard erupted into chaos. The human fought with sharp movements. Every strike precise, every dodge swift. But there were too many, and they pressed him from every side. The merchant laughed louder, enjoying the struggle. See, human? You cannot win, they will be mine again, Lyra cried, clinging to her mother. Don't let them take us, she begged. The mother's tears ran down her face. She turned to the human, shouting, Stop fighting, give me to them. Save yourself and my child. The human blocked another strike, his voice like iron. No, I don't abandon those I protect. One hunter slashed across his arm. Blood spilled, another nearly caught his side. But he twisted, countering with a brutal strike. His breath came heavy, but his eyes never wavered. He had seen worse battles, and he would not fall here. The merchant grew impatient, his voice sharp. Enough. Take the mother now. 2 hunters broke past, rushing toward her. The mother pushed Lyra behind her, ready to shield her with her own body. But before the blades could strike, the human hurled his weapon like a spear. It pierced the ground between them, glowing hot. The shockwave knocked the hunters back. The human shouted, "You'll touch them only when I'm dead." The courtyard fell silent for a moment. Even the hunters hesitated at his rage. The merchant's eyes narrowed, his smile fading. "You will regret this," he hissed. "Tonight you live. Tomorrow you die slowly." With a sharp signal, he pulled his hunters back. They vanished into the shadows, their eyes still burning with hatred. The human stood tall, his arm bleeding, his chest rising with heavy breaths. But he did not fall. The mother rushed forward, grabbing his wounded arm. "You're hurt," she whispered. Her voice breaking, he shook his head. "I've been hurt before." She pressed fabric against the wound. Her hands trembling, Lyra clung to him too, tears streaking her face. "You saved us," she whispered. "You didn't give us back." The human looked at her, his voice softer now. "I told you, you are not alone anymore." The night grew quiet again, but it was a false quiet. The merchant was still out there, planning, waiting. The human knew this was only the beginning of their war. He glanced at the mother and child. He could see their fear, but also their growing trust. And in his heart he made a silent vow. No matter how many hunters came, he would not let them be taken again. The courtyard smelled of smoke and blood. The fire was gone, only cold ash remained. The human sat against the wall, his arm wrapped in a strip of cloth, red from the wound. Lyra leaned against him, refusing to let go. Her mother knelt beside them, her eyes wide with worry. She had seen men fight before, but never like this, never with such fury and control. The hunters had left. But she knew they would come again. Stronger, more prepared. The human's eyes stayed sharp. Scanning every shadow, he was tired, but he did not allow himself to rest. He knew what the merchant wanted, not just the woman and child, but his pride, his strength. If he showed weakness, they would strike harder. The mother whispered, "Why do you fight for us? You don't even know our names fully." He turned his head toward her, his voice steady. "I don't need your names to know what is right." She lowered her gaze, her chest tight with emotions she could not name. At dawn, the ruins glowed with pale light. Birds with sharp wings circled the sky, their cries echoing through the broken streets. The human stood slowly, stretching his sore muscles. "We can't stay here," he said. "They will return soon. And next time they'll bring more." The mother held Lyra close. "Where will we go?" The human looked east, where the mountains cut the horizon. "There are old tunnels there, hidden during the wars if we reach them. We can vanish for a time." They moved quickly, slipping through alleys and broken bridges. The human walked ahead, scanning for traps. The mother carried Lyra when her small legs grew tired. Every step felt heavy, but hope pushed them forward, behind them unseen. The hunters stalked once more. The merchant had not forgotten, and he had prepared a cruel game. By midday, they reached a shattered plaza. The human stopped suddenly. Raising his hand, the mother froze, clutching Lyra tight. "What is it?" she whispered. The human crouched low, his fingers brushing the ground. There were strange markings in the dust. Too even, too perfect. "It's a trap," he muttered. "They're ahead of us." His words proved true. From the rooftops, hunters dropped like shadows, their blades glinting in the sun. This time there were more. 10 of them, each larger, faster, deadlier. The silver-scaled merchant appeared on a high wall, his voice loud and cruel. "Run, human, fight, it doesn't matter." "Today you break," the mother gasped. Pulling Lyra behind her, the child whimpered. "No. Please, no." The human stepped forward, his stance solid, his eyes unshaken. "Stay behind me," he said calmly. The hunters advanced, circling like wolves. The human drew his weapon, but he knew bullets would not be enough. So he reached into his pack and pulled out something else. Small spheres. Dull metal. He pressed a switch and they began to hum faintly. "Old earth tricks," he whispered. Half to himself, half to the terrified mother. He hurled the first sphere into the ground. It burst with a blinding flash. The hunters shrieked, their eyes burning from the light. The human moved fast, striking one with his weapon, knocking him into the rubble. The fight exploded in chaos. The hunters roared, blades slashing, claws tearing at stone. The human dodged, rolled, struck back with precision. Every move was sharp, born from years of war. But even with his skill, they pressed harder. 2 blades cut across his coat, another slashed his leg. Blood dripped, but his eyes burned with fire. He would not fall, not here, not now. The merchant laughed from above, his voice echoing, "Fight, human. Fight until your body breaks, but in the end, they are mine." The mother shouted desperately. "Stop, you'll die, they'll kill you." The human roared back, his voice fierce. "Then let them try, but I will not give you to them." His words carried like thunder, shaking even the hunters. For a moment they hesitated, unnerved by the fire in his voice, seizing the chance. The human hurled another sphere. This one exploded in smoke. Thick and choking, the hunters stumbled, blinded, slashing wildly. The human grabbed the mother's arm with one hand, Lyra's small hand with the other. "Run," he commanded, pulling them through the smoke. They stumbled across broken stones, hearts racing behind them. The hunters coughed and cursed, but the smoke slowed them down. They burst into another alley, panting. The human pressed against the wall, his chest heaving, his wounds burned, but his spirit was unbroken. The mother looked at him, her eyes wide with awe. "You fight like an army," she whispered. The human wiped blood from his face, his voice calm. "I've fought armies before." Lyra clung to him, whispering, "You won't leave us, right?" He crouched low, meeting her eyes. "I told you, little one. I never break a promise." Her tears fell, but she nodded, holding onto his hand tighter. From the rooftops, the merchant's eyes narrowed. The human had survived again, defiant even in blood and pain. "This is not over," he hissed. "He will fall. Even the strongest break eventually." But deep inside, a sliver of doubt twisted in his chest, because the human's defiance was not just strength. It was something greater, something the merchant could not understand. As the sun dipped low, the human led them toward the mountains, his steps steady, his eyes fierce. Every wound, every scar told a story, but still he stood tall, unbroken, unyielding. And the mother, walking close behind, realized something new. This was not just a man who saved them. This was a man who would never surrender. And as long as he stood, they had hope. The night stretched long, filled with the echoes of battle. But at last, the mountains rose before them, sharp and tall against the sky. The human led Lyra and her mother into a narrow ravine, where the rocks hid their path. His steps were slow now, his wounds heavy, but his back was straight. He refused to show weakness, not while they watched him. The mother walked close, holding Lyra in her arms. The child slept against her shoulder, her small face calm at last. It was the first peaceful sleep she had in months. The human found an old shelter carved into the rock. The walls were cracked, but strong enough to keep out the cold wind inside. He lowered his pack and sank onto the ground. His breath came heavy, every muscle burning from the fight. The mother hurried to him, tearing strips of cloth from her own dress. "Let me tend your wounds," she whispered, her voice trembling. He looked at her, about to refuse, but her eyes were steady. She pressed the cloth against his arm, firm and gentle. "You saved us," she said. "Now let me save you in the way I can." The human let her work, silent. Her hands moved with care, washing the blood, wrapping the wounds. Her touch was soft but filled with strength. He realized she had lived her life giving, feeding, caring. Even when broken, she had not lost that part of herself. He whispered finally, "You are stronger than you think." Her lips parted in surprise, but she said nothing. Only tears filled her eyes as she tied the bandages tighter. When dawn touched the horizon, light spilled into the shelter. Lyra stirred, opening her eyes slowly. She saw the human sitting nearby, his wounds wrapped, his face tired but calm. She crawled into his lap without hesitation. "Good morning," she whispered, her voice small but full of trust. The human looked down at her, his lips curving slightly. "Good morning, little one," he replied. The mother watched, her heart swelling with something she had not felt in years. Safety. They shared a meal together, simple soup made from herbs the mother gathered at dawn. The smell filled the shelter, warm and alive. The human ate slowly, savoring it, not for the taste alone, but for what it meant. It was a family's meal, not a prisoner's scrap, not a beggar's gift. Lyra giggled as she spilled some on her hand. The mother wiped it gently, smiling despite her exhaustion. The human watched them quietly, the firelight dancing in his eyes. After the meal, Lyra crawled closer to him again. She tugged on his coat, her big eyes searching his face. "Are you my dad now?" she asked suddenly. The human froze, his chest tightening. The mother gasped softly, her face flushing with shock. "Lyra," she whispered. "Don't..." But the child pressed on, her voice trembling. "You saved us. You gave us food, you never left, that's what a dad does, right? The silence that followed was heavy. The human stared at her, his eyes clouded with memories. He thought of Earth, of family long gone, of promises he could never keep. For a moment, pain crossed his face. But then he looked at Lyra again. Her eyes were full of hope, fragile and bright. Slowly,
He placed his hand on her head.
I don't know if I deserve that, he said softly. But if you want me to be, then yes, I can be. Lyra's face lit up with joy. She hugged him tightly, burying her face into his chest. Her small voice whispered, Then you're my dad. The mother turned away, tears running down her cheeks. She pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to hide the sound of her sobs. For so long she had been nothing. A shadow in the marketplace now, in this moment. She felt human again, alive again, she whispered softly, Thank you, though she wasn't sure if the words were enough. The human held the child, his eyes meeting the mother's. He didn't speak, but the look said everything. They were not slaves, not property, not burdens. They were his to protect, his to walk beside, and in return, they gave him something he thought he had lost forever. Family. Outside the sun rose higher, painting the rocks in gold. The hunters had not vanished. The merchant still plotted his revenge. But inside that shelter a new strength was born. Not the strength of weapons, but the strength of love. The human stood, adjusting his coat. We'll keep moving, he said. The road is long, but we walk it together. The mother nodded. Her fear fading, replaced by quiet courage, Lyra laughed, her small hand holding his tightly. As they stepped out into the morning light, the world seemed different. The ruins were still dangerous, the merchant still cruel. But they no longer faced it alone. The girl had her mother, the mother had her child, and both of them now had a human who refused to let go. They walked into the rising sun, three shadows moving as one. A family forged not by blood, but by choice, and in that choice hope was reborn.